Whoa, whoa, whoa. Spoilers, can't have this. Oh God. First video of 2024 is going to be awful archaeology. You guys excited? I already filmed it, as you can see by the fact that I forgot to take the props down before filming this video. I'm going to leave this up here as a shameless advertisement. Awful Archaeology with Milo Rossi, all new seasons premiere 2024. Howdy friends, my name is Milo Rossi and welcome to a little bit more of an informal video. I wanted to make this video to address a little bit of bad information that I put out into the world. So I was going through the comments on my Dark Roots motorcycle vlog series on the second channel, and I came across a comment of someone being like, hey, you should check out this guy's video. He made a response to your Guadalupe ruins, and I think he has some really constructive criticism. And I was like, well, damn, I gotta check it out. Now, the fellow who made this video by the name of Daskalos, he is a archaeologist. He works in the American Southwest, and so he's very knowledgeable in the region and area that I was talking about. Some of you may actually be familiar with Daskalos' channel. He did a video on the archaeologist's interpretation of the trail runes in the new Minecraft update. And so if you watch me, chances are you've actually probably come across some of his stuff as well. After I saw Daskalos' video, I knew I was going to make a response because frankly, having the right information out to the world is more important than my pride. So I reached out to him to have a meeting to sort of discuss some of the stuff, and it was great. We talked for about 90 minutes yesterday. It was a wonderful time. And so again, know that all of his critiques are coming from the same place as mine, which is just wanting the right information to be in the world. And so when you do go watch his video, if you do choose to interact with it, please show him the same respect that you show me. And in his video response, he raises some very valid concerns about some of the archaeological practices that I presented in that video. Now, as you guys know, a lot of what I do here is debunk things. And part of having that responsibility is being able to hold the mirror up to yourself and correct any places that you may have overstepped. Mistakes happen. That's part of life. And so I want to address and platform the criticisms and critiques that Daskalos had in his video to my broad audience here, because he raises some very valid concerns. So I wanted to take this as an opportunity to have a learning experience and a teaching experience. I'm not going to include too much of Daskalos' video in this one just because I am on a time crunch before break and my editing is already strapped thin with the last episode of Dark Roots coming out. But I insist that you watch his video as well. I will link it in the description. So there were two major critiques that Daskalos had of the Dark Roots video. The first was culturally. So he is someone who works in the American Southwest. So he had a couple of critiques on, the differences between, the Chicoan culture and the ancestral Puebloans as an entire group, and sort of the way that I framed it as looking like, Mesa Verde was its own culture and Chaco was its own culture. And so when we were talking in our meeting yesterday, he was like, you kind of fell into the same trap that a lot of people do when they are doing this just based on, research through, academic papers and things like that. Because a lot of the papers were written in like the 50s and 60s, and they did sort of isolate these groups as different cultures and different civilizations, big air quotes. Now, I have a good research team. I am a pretty good researcher. I'm pretty good at weeding out good information from bad. But there is some level of understanding that you can only have if you've really, really studied something. So what I want to do moving forward, when I talk about a specific culture or something that has a really high level of nuance that you may be able to miss by just reading academic papers, I would like to try and bring more professionals onto the channel. I think that it would really enhance the knowledge that you guys are able to get. It would really enhance the nuance that you're able to get. That way, instead of just being research that I'm able to find, you're actually talking and hearing from someone who has worked for years in the field. So I think going into 2024, I really want to see if I can reach out to more creators. If you guys have any recommendations of people that you'd want to see kind of platformed here or have interesting history and archaeology to talk about, please reach out and let me know. But I think I definitely want to try and start bringing other people into the fold and do a lot more collaborations, because I think it will lend not only more credibility to me and what I do here, but also it will lend much better and more reliable information to you and the information therefore that you're going to spread when you talk about this stuff. What can I say? I'm good at making lemonade out of lemons. But the second and much more egregious criticism which he had, which is one that I'm going to be addressing in this video, is archaeological ethics. Because in that video, I can fully admit, I spread a little bit of bad information. And the primary place that came from was my conduct around the potsherds and around the ruin itself. Now, I'm sure many of you watched that video and were just like, yeah, it's fine. He's there, he's doing something, he's not like etching his name in the wall. But interacting with a site, pretty much period, is a big no-no in archaeology. And so what I wanted to do to use this as a teaching and a learning experience for all of us is go over probably the first thing that they teach you in your fundamentals of archaeology class, which is the Archaeological Code of Ethics. For those of you that don't know, there is a Archaeological Code of Ethics outlined by the Society of American Archaeology that talks about sort of the guidelines that every archaeologist should have when working in the field. So I wanted to go over them to sort of address where I misstepped, be able to sort of rectify it, and then also give you guys the tools that you need in order to identify archaeological malpractice in the future. So to make very clear the sort of things that you're not supposed to do. Moving potsherds. Do not move the potsherds. In that video, I said that, you can kind of put them near signs or people will make piles of them. Don't do that. Now, this one is one that it was a little bit embarrassing to be called out on, I have to admit, because that's something that I really should know better of. I will be the first to admit that. But I think my enthusiasm kind of overtook me there. I'm also not one who has done extensive work in the American Southwest. It's only been like tangential and reading about it. I've never done field work there. And so I am sort of unfamiliar with that environment. A lot of my sort of archaeological studies in college were on the shell middens in Maine. And a lot of what we were talking about there was, your layers of stratigraphy, where obviously you don't want to disturb the context. You don't want to dig into it and rip things out, because the moment you move it from where it was, you have destroyed the most important piece of information you can get from it, which is where it sits in the strata. But when I would go out west and, it's a riverbed full of these potsherds, you're like, man, it's a riverbed. Like, this shit's all been washed around, how can moving it be that much damage? But it does, because archaeologists can look at the, flow of a river. They can identify where these sherds have come from. And more importantly, if you end up putting all the sherds in one place, that may be great for people like you and I who want to go there and just look at them, but people will steal them. People suck. I mean, and I was a big concern that I had even saying the name of the Guadalupe ruins, because the last thing I want is for someone to go there and be like, fuck, there's a pile of, potsherds and a bunch of unexcavated buildings. I'm gonna just get out there with a hatchet. I will say there is a ranch right next to it, and I do know that the guy there is literally a cowboy, so he will fucking shoot you. Don't even think about it. Okay, let's go over the Archaeological Code of Ethics. Principle number 1, stewardship. The archaeological record, that is in situ archaeological material and sites, archaeological collections, records, and reports are irreplaceable. It is the responsibility of all archaeologists to work for the long-term conservation and protection of the archaeological record by practicing and promoting stewardship of the archaeological record. So this one really is kind of the fundamental big boy number 1, which is don't disturb the context. Sometimes you'll see videos of people who are, digging up, arrowheads or, projectile points, as Boscalos will correct me on, in their backyard or something like that. And yeah, again, most people will be like, what's the matter? It's 1 point. But the moment you remove it from its context, it loses the most important piece of information it has. So if you go to one of these sites, don't touch it. Don't fuck with it. Just look at it. Oh, the other one was, there was one clip that I had where I sat on one of the stones. Don't do that either. In my mind, I'm from the granite land where everything's granite, it doesn't fucking matter, you can kind of sit on anything you want. Stone walls are things that I've grown up around. But out there, A, the ruins are a lot older, and B, they're made of sandstone. So every time you rub your little thingies on them, you're gonna transfer some oils, and we prefer that they don't deteriorate at any faster rate. It may not seem like much when you do it, but if every person that came there did it, straw that broke the camel's back. Okay, principle number 2, accountability. Responsible archaeological research, including all levels of professional activity, requires a knowledge of public accountability and a commitment to make every reasonable effort in good faith to consult actively with affected groups, with the established goal of working relationships that can be beneficial to all parties involved. That one's kind of obvious, is if there is an existing culture or, descendants of a culture that you are excavating, please work with them. They don't want you stealing their shit. This is why I made a point to say that I'd like to work with Indigenous guides going forward, because, I can do all the research I want, but it won't really matter. It's sort of an extension of me talking about how I want to bring in professionals to be able to lend their expertise here for all of us to learn from. Number 3 is commercialization. The Society for American Archaeology has long recognized that the buying and selling of objects out of archaeological context is contributing to the destruction of the archaeological record and the American continents and around the world. Well, on the American continents and around the world. Don't sell things. So again, if you go to a site like this one should go without saying, don't take anything. It's one thing for me to say you could move it, which is bad, but don't fucking take it. I thought that one goes without saying. Don't do it. Number 4, public education and outreach. That's my job. Archaeologists should reach out to and participate in cooperative efforts with others interested in the archaeological record with the aim of improving the preservation, protection, and interpretation of the record. That's kind of what I try to do here. All of you are people who are interested in archaeology. You could even say that you're a little bit of an archaeologist, and I think that that's kind of the inspiring thing about what I do here. is I want to reach out to you guys. I want to have that, accountability, and I want to have the outreach to be able to platform right information, even if I said something else in the past. And that's something that Daskalos and I actually talked about a lot on our call yesterday. It was very little actually talking about the, sort of matter at hand. It was more just talking about being science communicators. He was talking about how he enjoys finding sort of new teaching methods to be able to teach archaeology to people, whether it be, building a Bronze Age village in Minecraft, or whether it be, like making little like clay pots, like a perfume bottle from like ancient Greece. And so it's really interesting to talk with other archaeological content creators and see the way that we engage an audience, because that's our job. Yeah, I'm an archaeologist, I'm an environmental scientist, I'm an author, but my big thing is I'm a science communicator. This is my job. It's talking to you. Do you see, I don't have a shovel in my hand right now. And outreach is the most important thing that we have, because the moment that the academic world stops engaging with the public, it drives people towards fucking pseudoscience. The moment that you stop reaching out a hand and embracing people and welcoming them into the scientific world, they will feel put off by it, they will feel intimidated by it, and they will feel more inclined to go towards these things that make them feel good because they think archaeology is a space that they're not welcome. That rant I could extend that into a video in and of itself, but I'm going to keep moving for now. Principle number 5, intellectual property. Intellectual property, as contained in the knowledge and documents created through the study of archaeological resources, is part of the archaeological record. As such, it should be treated in accordance with the principles of stewardship rather than the matter of personal possession. No book burnings. Principle number 6, public reporting and publication. Within a reasonable time, the knowledge archaeologists gain from investigations of the archaeological record must be presented in accessible form through publication or other means to as wide a range of interested publics as possible. Now again, I'm not doing field work here, so it's not results that are being published, but I think that this is still a good example of that principle, where I am trying to make all of my information as publicly available as possible so that all of you guys can learn from it. And also, if there are corrections to it, just like in any sort of academic discourse in sort of the university world, I am, making my corrections known, because it's one thing to acknowledge them for myself, but you guys are the ones who are actually being taught it, and I don't want it to go on to spread. So it's my responsibility to make sure that the right information is in the world. Principle number 7, records and preservation. Archaeologists should work actively for the preservation of and long-term access to archaeological collections, records, and reports. To this end, they should encourage colleagues, students, and others to make responsible use of collections, records, and reports in their research as one means of preserving the in situ archaeological record. No book burnings again. Principle number 8, training and resources. Given the destructive nature of most archaeological investigations, archaeologists must ensure that they have adequate training, expertise, facilities, and other support necessary to conduct any program of research they initiate in a manner consistent with the foregoing principles and the contemporary standard of professional practice. This ties back to how I want to try and bring more professionals into the fold going forward. Because really what this is training and resources. Yeah, I don't think every single person who watches this video is going to go on to become an archaeologist, but the thing that has inspired me the most out of this channel is how many people have reached out to me and told me that I've inspired them to go back to school, or they thought they could never become an archaeologist and now they want to go to university for it. So what I have here is something that I really haven't seen another archaeologist create, and that is a really, really broad public audience. 1.5 million subscribers is a fucking lot of people. And so I really want to try and use this platform for that training, to elevate the voices of people who may be more relegated to sort of the textbook classroom side of things, and be able to let their voices be platformed to a really broad audience. And finally, principle number 9, safe educational and workplace environments. Don't harass people. Okay. So that is sort of the end of the video here. So that you guys are aware, I have removed the part of the Guadalupe Ruins video where I talk about the potsherds. There are, again, nitpicks that you will see in Daskalos' video about the Chacoan culture and things like that. I have left them in because I think wholly the information is still pretty good, but in order to sort of rectify it, Daskalos is actually going to probably be the first real collaboration I do in an effort to start to bring more professionals onto the channel. So him and I have already talked about doing a video specifically on the ancestral Puebloans, probably come 2024. I have a lot on my plate and I'm about to go on break for the winter, but those are kind of the things that we're working on, and so we're going to try and handle that in a really positive and constructive way. I think that kind of brings it all to a close. I filmed the next episode of Awful Archaeology finally. I'm really excited for the new year. I'm really fucking exhausted. 23 has been really tiring. And man, yeah, it's been a tough one. It's been flat out, and I feel like I've been putting a lot of work into series that I don't know. I've been really trying to like branch out, and a lot of the things that I've been branching out have just, I don't know, they haven't been quite as satisfying as what I did in the first place. So I'm looking forward to bringing back a lot of those things that are really, you know, cathartic to my heart again in 2024. And we're going to be starting January pretty early with this next episode. I'm on break until January 8th, and then we'll get the new series or the next episode out. So I'd like to thank all of you for watching. Thanks again for a great year, and I know that, you know, these videos are ones that are probably going to have a more tight-knit community watching them. They're not exactly big viral videos, so for those of you that have stuck around this long, thank you. It really means the world to me. Like I can really tell, especially with all the videos that I've been letting out recently, that there's this great core of like 200,000 people who just really, you know, they tune in for everything. And I just want to like extend a very honest appreciation to you guys for sticking with me and for, you know, and for showing interest in the projects that I'm working on and for cheering me on along the way. It really means the world to me. And again, I want this to stand as a testament that I'm not infallible. I turned 24 last weekend. And so I'm still pretty new to the game here, and I understand that there's, you know, going to be places where I'm going to have to learn, and that's kind of part of it, you know, the Dunning-Kruger effect. Sometimes you got to take a little bit of a fall and be like, wow, did I really just tell people to fucking remove potsherds? That was really stupid. But it's about how you handle it, you know? I'm not going to, you know, in Daskalos' video, he was like, I don't know why this guy would, you know, bother with me. He's got 1.5 million subscribers, and I have this many, and he has that many views, and I have this many, and it doesn't fucking matter to me. I mean, he's a professional with years more experience in the field than I've even been alive. And so as much as I am a creator, I don't want to be like a creator where it's like, oh yeah, I got 1.5 million and therefore I can't be, you know, go harass this guy, I hate him. No, he's fucking right. I have no problem admitting that, and I think that, you know, that's part of doing this job, is being able to, you know, accountability, whatever principle that was. And I know it's probably not a big deal to you, but, you know, it's a big deal to me. I want to make sure I'm putting good info into the world because it undermines the points that I try to make in things like this when I make a stupid mistake. And so I try to not only rectify it, but also kind of illustrate how I'm going to try and do better moving forward. You know, when I made the ziggurat mistake, I hired a research assistant. And, you know, when Dr. Hafford corrected my thing on the Baghdad battery, I did a whole response and platformed his corrections, and then him and I worked together at the Penn Museum. So, you know, I always try and, I'm a silver lining kind of guy. I am an optimist to a fault. So again, I'd like to thank you guys very much for watching this video. I hope that you all have a happy solstice. I encourage you to take a little bit of time to reflect and look inwards at yourself and, you know, find a little bit of peace. I think that we don't have a lot of significance around the solstice anymore, but if there is a single day to celebrate, it's the one that has the most proof of its significance. So take the darkest day to really look in and be calm and be still and show grace and care and affection and, you know, be grateful for where you are in the world and know that I'm sending all of my love out into the ether. I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. Remember to stay curious, stay inquisitive, and I'll see you in 2024. Happy New Year, guys. Thank you.